bombshell new report on the Homeland Security Department that points to more than $35 billion in taxpayer expenditures that this report claims were wasteful. Among them, this one example, there are many examples in this report, but $1,000 in entrance fees per person for a zombie apocalypse, she said, summit in San Diego. That was meant to simulate a real-life terrorist attack to sort of practice the reactions, and the zombie bit was just sort of the vehicle for practicing preparedness in that case. $257,000, here's another example, for an armored truck in Fargo, North Dakota, a city that has no more than 2 murders happen each year. But they've got this huge armored truck that was extremely expensive. The truck so far has been used for training purposes and for appearances at an annual picnic. An Easter egg hunt or something like that was where they brought out the armored truck, and $98,000 for an underwater robot in Columbus. Apparently there's not a lot of water in the area where they have that underwater robot. So those are just some samples of some of the stuff on here that was found to be wasteful in this report. I'm joined now by Oklahoma Republican Tom Coburn. He's the senator behind this report. He has dedicated a lot of his career to trying to find the wasteful programs that exist in Washington. He's a member of the Homeland Security Committee as well. Senator, welcome. Good to have you here this morning.
Good morning, Martha. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing just fine. I mean, obviously, the Homeland Security Department was created after September 11th to find ways to make us more secure as a nation. So when these communities say that they need this money for training purposes to be ready in the event of an attack, it seems on the face of it like a good idea, right?
Well, these are called Urban Area Security Initiative grants, and the whole idea was to take the top cities in America that were most likely at risk for terrorism and harden them and help the states and those cities get them to a point where we have a markedly decreased risk for terrorism attacks. The problem with the administration, a lot of this money has been well spent. That wasn't the purpose of the report.
Right.
The purpose of the report is to show that, number one, is we don't have any metrics or measurement to say how our money's being spent, so we're not following it well, as outlined by the examples that you gave. Number two is this at one time expanded to over 60 cities, which is ridiculous. Number three is a lot of the money is being spent not for hardening those cities and preparing for the future, but to pay everyday expenses, which is not the purpose of the grants. And number four is to show the incompetency of the Department of Homeland Security when it comes to actually making sure the money that they're sending out there is spent on something that actually does the purpose of what the bill was passed for in the first place. Yeah,
you know, we should point out that Halo says that the zombie demonstration that we showed was not paid for by taxpayer dollars in their assessment of it. And this is in San Diego. In September, the police officers and rescue workers were allowed to use a Homeland Security grant money to cover the cost of a 5-day counterterrorism conference that was held at the Paradise Point Resort and Spa. $1,000 conference fee, and it included the zombie apocalypse demonstration in which first responders zapped 40 actors dressed as the undead. We're looking at video of this. You know, what's your reaction to the fact that they say there were no taxpayer dollars used?
Well, that's not. All money's fungible. What we do know is that this government, and specifically the Department of Homeland Security, is not doing a good job in managing grants and making sure the money that, based on the application of the grant, is spent the way it was supposed to. The second thing that we know is these have now become almost entitlements, that the same amount of money goes every year rather than initially to set up and prepare the cities so that the infrastructure would be there and that the federal government would quit sending money.
Yeah.
So it's like Reagan said, the closest thing to eternal life is a federal government program. And so in the light of where we are today, this government sends $800 billion a year out in grants. I would tell you $200 billion of it's wasted. And we ought to be about finding that.
And as you point out, some of them scramble at the end to spend the money so that they'll get the same amount of money the next year because they don't want to be accused of not needing it. And that's a huge problem. You've spent a lot of time working on this over the years, and thank you very much for the work that you do and for being with us today. Good to talk to you, Senator. We'll see you soon.
Makes your head spin, doesn't it?
Yeah.